So I had some questions, just general questions, and about some things around here, and figured I'd address them in video form. So, the first question comes from Sparkington9, and I'm going to go into a little bit more depth than just what he asked, but he had asked me what the PTO is on a tractor. And we're going to do a little demonstration here about the various features that tractors may or may not have, and will hopefully help you guys give a little bit better understanding of agricultural tractors. So the first thing we're going to do is start this up. Fire it up here. Now the first thing I'd bring up is the throttle on a tractor. Now some tractors just have a hand throttle like this. Your tractors with a little bit more options will have a foot throttle like that. Now that's something that a tractor, it's completely dependent on the tractor, on each individual tractor, whether or not it has that foot throttle or the hand throttle or both, like our John Deere 2240 does. Now the other question that's been brought up several times was about diesel tractors, glow plugs, and ether injection ports. Now this particular tractor does not have glow plugs. It does have an ether port. The ether port is right here. Now on a tractor that has an ether port, the ether is injected directly through a tube that's connected to this piece here, directly into the air intake. And on this particular model, you just take your can and push it up against the bottom there, and it'll spray the ether in. Now, some tractors, like our 4230, does not even have an ether injection port, just a plug-in. And it's kind of a pain in the butt, but the other thing to mention about ether injection ports is most larger tractors will actually have a place where you connect the ether port, the ether bottle, or the ether can, and then there will be a button that you can push in order to, usually on the dash somewhere, to inject the ether. Now on to the other little tidbits here. Now on this particular tractor, and the vast majority of tractors have a PTO. Now this is the PTO. It is PTO stands for power takeoff, and what that does is it transfers power from that shaft there to another piece of equipment, like for instance an auger, like that. There will be a shaft that you connect to the PTO, and then you would pull this lever right here. You click this up, and then you go back here and your PTO is running, as you can see. So then you shut it off, and this tractor has another little nifty item, and that's the PTO disengage. So you kick that back and it completely disengages your PTO, so you can't even turn it on with the yellow knob. And then if you pull it back in, well, sometimes you gotta work it a bit, there you go. Then you'll be able to turn it back on. Now the other option that most tractors that I've encountered at least have is an axle lock or a differential lock. And all that does is it's exactly the same thing as putting a differential lock in your pickup, except that this particular differential lock, and most tractors, so far as I know, it's a 100% locker. It's like putting a Detroit 100% locker, or like welding up your spools. Gives you a lot more traction for your difficult spots. Now the other thing that most smaller tractors will have is a 3-point hitch, like this. And usually there's a bar coming up out of here. Ours has a bar that comes out of there with a hook that goes there, but we don't have it hooked up right now. So, and what this PTO does is makes it so you can hook up small implements to the back of the tractor, and you'd lower them down like so, raise them up, but it just makes it so you can run small implements that you wouldn't usually want to hook to the hitch. So that's about all I can think of for tractor stuff. If there's any other questions, feel free to let me know, and we're on to the next question. Well, for anybody that was still confused about the 3-point issue, this is a 3-point implement. Now those 2 bars that I showed you would go right here, and the bar that come up the middle that I talked about is actually right here. And as you can see, you just put those bars on either side like so, drop your pins in, and then you can lift that from the back of the tractor. And this is all this is just a small cultivator for doing around tree rows and gardens and things like that. So I hope that explains the 3-point issue. Now, the last question that was asked was concerning our 2001 Chrysler Sebring. And All Drunked Up had asked me where you would jump start one of these. Now the reason he would ask me that is because if you haven't seen it, yesterday or the day before, whichever day it was, I did a video on replacing the battery on this car. And the battery is actually right down here. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out, because it is a raging pain in the butt to change that battery down here. So he asked where you jump start it, and it's pretty simple to answer. We'll just pop the hood here. Put my hood prop up. So the answer to your question is right here and here would be where you'd hook the jumper cables up. There's a cable that goes directly from the battery, or from the battery to this terminal here, which you just pull this red cap off, and sometimes they're a pain in the butt to get off there, like that. And you'd put your positive here, and then your negative here. Now the problem I've run into with these in the past is that it seems like you just never get enough juice, almost like you don't get a good ground. And so what I've always done is hook the positive right here, and then hooked a negative to one of these bolts or some other point on the car that would serve as a good ground. And that is how you jump start one of these Chrysler Sebrings, because the battery is right down there. You can just barely see it. So I hope that answers your questions, All Drunked Up and Sparkington 9. And keep watching and stay tuned for more. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer them as best as I can.